joined by Olumide Ohunayo, General Secretary, Aviation Safety Round Table Initiative. Thank you so much, sir, for coming around.
Thank you for having me.
So let's understand the impunity that fuels the ability of airlines to approve tickets and the boarding of passengers, and mid-air or mid-transit, they are being deported due to visa requirements, issues, and all that. So what's that?
Well, I think it takes two to tango, and when it takes two to tango, then you have to weigh all the options available to you. For me, the regulation is very clear. We don't need the NCAA coming out now to tell that we are going to sanction. You don't have to tell us you should do it. The regulation is very clear on consumer protection. Now, on the issue of overboarding, almost everywhere in the world, there are cases of airlines having booked more passengers than the capacity could carry. And when you have such a situation, it still happens today in everywhere. What the airlines do is that anybody that's going to be deported, you are offered. It's not like you're offered whether they'll give one free ticket on your next trip. They must give you a kind of compensation, not just thrown overboard. But you can only be thrown overboard when you have a regulatory body that does not protect its consumers. But once the regulatory body, which is the NCAA, as I just read, that does this job, no airline will just deport the passengers without making requisite compensation or putting on next flight or next available flight for that passenger. The regulation must be able to protect. So I don't want them saying it. We should see it act. We should implement it. When you implement it, everybody will sit up. And I must give kudos that since this government came in and the present leadership of Captain Chris Najomo, there has been complete improvement in the area of consumer protection, and I think that process should continue. Now, going to the mid-air return, I know there was a recent case that went viral of that lady who went at the Kenya airport and they said she threw the sanitary or whatever towards them. I was first to say something was wrong here. If this lady could not, if the lady could not go beyond Kenya to a point of destination, then why did you lift her out of Nigeria at all? You should have aborted the flight. So you must be able to take care of whatever issues that come up with that lady. But then, every day, it's no more a secret. Nigeria has been removed from all those e-visa, visa arrival. You might wake up this morning and say Nigeria was still on the portal. By 12 midday, Nigeria is off that portal. So if that catches that passenger midday, then you just have to face it. But it's a two-way thing. The airlines must be sure that you meet all the visa requirements before they pick you. Because if they pick a passenger that is not eligible or is not granted entry, that passenger will be deported by that country, and the airline itself will pay a fine, a huge fine for that passenger. That's why the airlines also are holding themselves. Look, we will not want to go and pay that fine. I would rather sit up and ensure that this works. So both the passengers and the airlines must be sure of what visa requirements are needed before boarding. But it rests on the airline to make sure that they sort all this before picking the passenger. Once you pick the passenger, you must bear consequences for what happens once you pick them. So
how traumatizing is it for a passenger to go through that process, and how does it paint the image for Nigeria's aviation industry?
Well, that situation is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. It's peculiar to countries whereby your passport does not belong to the high index group. Well, our passport is not in that. To us, yes, we call it a passport, a green passport, definitely. But when you take it on these other countries that can use their passport to enter countries without visa, then you know we're very down on the ladder. And the only way that can improve is not by continuing vexation. It's just by improving the economy, improving security, improving services, making our youth to be eager to stay at home and be productive. Once that propensity to travel is not there, you're not running a task, you're not asking for asylum, then your people will not begin to go. Nigerians are not on this list. We can now move. But once you can now remove us and put us on where we go. But when we keep having our youth running out of the country, claiming asylum, abusing the e-visa, because we have abused so many e-visas, we have abused so many on-arrival visas that we have been taken off the list on day-by-day basis.
All right, well, we are going to go on a short break. I don't know how viable it is for the Nigerian economy to want to support someone who's willing to stay back and probably be productive. But then when we go on a break and return, we'll look at that and look at other aspects to if someone, a passenger who goes through that situation, can equally seek redress by himself or herself rather than the authority. We'll be back in a bit to talk more on the show. Stay with us. You're watching Business Edge on Central Television, and we have been discussing the latest directive by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority saying it will begin to crack down on airlines that actually deport Nigerians based on some sort of probably observations, maybe violation requirements or visa application and all that. And then we are looking at it from a critical point of view. How viable is it? How valid is it? Does it infringe on the rights of the passengers who go through these daunting situations? And well, of course, we have Olumide Ohunayo, who is the General Secretary, Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, with us. So I go back to the conversation around how it affects the passenger. Rather than have the authority be the one to seek legal redress, can a passenger who has been deported and all checks have been done and you've seen that, okay, the process for which the passenger boarded the flight were valid, can that person redress?
Definitely. Every passenger has a right to seek redress if the terms of agreement on your ticket have been met, the terms of visa have been met, and you are not denied boarding. But if you are denied entry, that is no more the responsibility of the airline. It's now between you and the immigration of that country. But then any airline that sells a ticket and the ticket says this passenger is up to this destination, and you are taking that passenger out of Nigeria based on the agreement, on the ticket agreement, and on the visa, and you've seen it competent to travel, then you must get that passenger to his destination. If he's not qualified, then you must have noticed and detected that right here in Nigeria before the person boards the flight.
But off camera, you were saying that if, for instance, someone was to travel from here to Australia and probably the route takes you through Qatar, that the immigration officers in Qatar have the right to question, and if they find something incriminating or there's an infraction, they have the right to deport that person. I'd like you to clarify that.
I just said that now. I just said that any airline that takes a passenger from here,
okay,
based on his ticket and documentations to travel, and it sees the person as being valid, then it's the responsibility of the airline to take the passenger to his point, to the last point of destination. But if along the line it is the immigration of a country that is going to, or even intermediate country that says you cannot cross, then it's no more the airline's responsibility. The airline can now be liable. It's now the responsibility of that. It's an immigration thing, and that's kettle of fish together. It's no more the airline that you can now. You now begin to take. You now becomes suing the government of that country that did not allow you to step down or to proceed on your flight. And some of these things are possible. You see, all of us we have the penchant of looking for the cheapest fare. Now, when you're looking for the cheapest fare, most cheapest fares are not direct flights. They are either one stop, two stop, the one that takes about, you need to spend about 8 or 9 hours in one of the airports, and that makes you to maybe stroll out of the airport terminal. In doing that, some of the conditions of that visa or the transit you are breaching. Again, when you carry semi-illiterate or a semi-illiterate person, I apologize, or someone that cannot communicate very well in English to take flights that are not direct flights, in the process of having miscommunication, even at the transit stop, you will still be interviewed by immigration personnel. If your response is not satisfactory, they will not refer to the airline that brought you.
Okay.
To come and defend once the immigration person says you are going back, then you are going back from there. All the airline has to do is just to comply and return you back. Wow. So I always advise that when you look at fares that are cheap, you also need to look at the convenience and other issues relating to the treatment of by the immigration personnel of such countries.
Okay.
So,
okay. So before we round up, I must ask you this question because a lot of Nigerians are equally concerned about it. Is there anything currently being done about airlines now who actually cancel or delay flights without prior notice and that they do not compensate or pay passengers for inconvenience? Is there anything being done to address that now? Because we know what used to happen before.
Oh, very, very well. You see, I just commended the recently confirmed DG, Captain Chris Najomo. His team has set up an online portal for passengers to report immediately any infraction, delay, cancel flight, and that you are not compensated or responded to. Remember, it is not the NCAA that will initiate the process of fighting for the redress. It is the passenger in question. That must always, the passengers should know that NCAA will not from nowhere carry. The passenger must make a report. And before you make a report, you first interact with the airline. It is their response. If the response is not good enough, then you take it further, you escalate it to the NCA, and there's a portal there. You don't have to go to the NCA office anymore or write a long letter. There's a portal. You can just go on the portal, sign in, and send your email or send your message to them, and you'll be responded to. The process has started, and I just hope they will build on it. For the first time, they have released the statistics and of delay, cancelled flights, scheduled flights. For the first time, for the industry to see what they've got was for the one for the year 2024. But there have been some complaints about that data. So I think they should just start breaking it down to maybe monthly report. That helps everybody to see stop. I think we should not be waiting to them. That's what I want to advise the NCA, that we should move into setting this report on a monthly basis.
Well, thank you so much, Olumide Ohunayo, General Secretary, Aviation Safety.
Thank you for having me.